Welcome back to our politics pen, where we grab the economic crisis by the horns and drag it bellowing to the ground. Now, last time round, we were shearing lumps off the budget with a whole range of spending cuts. This time, the job is a lot more difficult. That means, as well as spending less, we're going to have to pay more in tax rises. Now, helping us with this is Stephen Herring, who's a senior tax partner at BDO in the city. So, Stephen, how serious is the problem and how much has got to be raised with tax rises?
It's a very serious problem. The deficit projected is to £175 billion. Now, it's my estimate that something up to £25 billion might need to be met by tax increases. The balance had been met by public spending reductions and the effects of economic growth working through into the economy.
And have the parties given any indication what those tax increases will be yet?
I don't think the parties like to talk about tax increases. They prefer to talk about tax reliefs and tax cuts.
Now, Stephen has been helping our advocates hone their arguments in preparation for going before our panel of experts upstairs. So let's just recap the format. It's like Dragon's Den, except that our advocates are not selling business plans, they're selling economic salvation. But they do have to go before a panel of experts. And here today are... Matthew Taylor, former head of Tony Blair's policy unit and now a social reformer at the Royal Society of Arts. He knows how government works and how tough it is to sell a tax rise to the public. Just have a little patience. Patience Wheatcroft, auditor turned editor. As Tory Mayor Boris Johnson's forensic auditor, she was responsible for scrutinising the accounts of the City of London. Now editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal Europe. Anne Redston used to be a nun but swapped prayer for figures. Now a professor of tax law at King's College London. She'll deal with the practicalities. And Lord Digby Jones, former Trade Minister in Gordon Brown's government of all the talents. Before that, head of the UK's top business lobby group, too right-wing to join Labour, and withering in his contempt for unions, civil servants, and, as he puts it, socialist envy. No need for an opinion pollster this time round. We don't need one to tell us that tax rises are unpopular. We also know that politicians aren't really discussing the subject as well. So we turn to you, the viewer, for your suggestions of how we raise more money from taxation. Here's a taster of what we got.
The problem that we're here to solve is that there's a great gaping hole in the nation's finances and we need to fill it quickly.
I'm Mary Campbell and I've come to ask you to cut £10 billion a year off the pension tax and national insurance relief.
A small tax of 0.5% would actually raise about £7 billion.
My proposal is that we create a new rate of VAT.
My proposal is to raise the age of retirement to 75.
If you want someone to help you sell this proposal, I think the obvious person is Sir Fred Goodwin.
Well, you just let me jump in.
In one moment. If you're going to say to me that this is about punishment, which is really what you said, then I have to say you're not really doing it for me.
You've come here with too big a figure, too big a claim, and it's kind of fallen apart.
We need a radical suggestion.
Well, no, I'd say the reverse.
What do you make of the GDP?
I haven't seen it this morning.
Oh, well, apparently it's down.
No.
Yeah.
It's a time for desperate measures because we are in desperate times.
Put new council tax bands at the upper end.
Put the VAT rate up to 20%.
Tobin tax, a tax on financial transactions.
Legalise prostitution.
Well, I'm rather attracted by a broad church of sin.
Your idea is rejected.
Thank you.
Oh dear, well we've still got a hole.
That's a different idea to say.
After the last series of Politics Pen, we went interactive. Our web team asked you for the best ideas for radical spending cuts. The winning ones in a moment, as chosen by our top thinkers. But first, some that were a little too radical, even for them.
There was there was also some very creative ideas that in years in think tanks you haven't seen before. I was very struck by someone who said we could either give away Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland, or even better, sell it.
But I rather like the suggestion to limit the size of shoe heels, on the grounds that it's people have poor posture, and this is costing the NHS millions. And it turns out that was sent in by one of the world's great leading experts on posture, Dr. Vic Barker. So, I mean, the Newsnight has managed to attract some heavyweight contributions.
We asked these men to sort through the ideas. Andrew Holdenby from the centre-right think tank Reform, and Sundar Katwala from the left-leaning Fabian Society. Sundar, what was your favourite proposal?
Well, I was very impressed by Anton Shalapunov of London, who pointed out the cost of what he called hyper-incarceration, the £11 billion a year it costs us, the cost of crime, the cost of imprisoning people, and building more prisons and not getting a social benefit from that. It's a difficult issue to take the public with you, but really we need to change the argument on that.
Is there anything that you think is more acceptable?
Well, I think lots of these things would be acceptable as well. I mean, an idea from Michael Plant of Basildon was to say, as a matter of principle, nobody should receive more from the public purse than the Prime Minister. I actually think that would actually be a very popular principle. I think you might cap public salaries. You might have to have some very few exceptions that are allowed by Parliament. But actually, if you had a norm, do people need to earn more than £200,000 a year to run the BBC? I think they'd do it.
Andrew, any others?
Well, I was impressed by the fact that people didn't run away from the difficult things. So on the health service, they wanted to look at the health budget, which, by the way, the Tories are a bit reactionary on, but people want to look at that. They want to explore health insurance, and the idea is that if people look after their health more, they'll pay lower insurance, it'll save money in the long term. And then the other one was making the civil service accountable. And at the moment we have an invisible civil service which frankly spends a lot of money quite badly. A more visible, accountable civil service will take more care over those decisions. So I thought they were good. I mean, there was one thing here which we haven't talked about, which is Europe, which, I don't have a view on, and I don't know if Sundar has a view on leaving the European Union, but that came up over and over and over again. So I don't know if that's a vocal minority or a big part of public opinion. But it's not much talked about in politics at the moment.
It just seems Andrew and Sundar's top 5 of your ideas are online at our website. More Politics Pen on the box next week.
But equally, as you say,